Hey, what a beautiful day. And welcome back to another episode of the Dark But Legal podcast. Last week, we had Bill on. We talked about the automotive side of things, film constructions, layers, different types of films. This time, we're diving into PPF. This is going to be a PPF 101 episode with Mr. Bill Stewart. Bill?
Yeah?
What's going on, man?
Glad to be back.
That's what I'm talking
Glad
about.
to be back. Nice, warm Louisiana.
Yeah, it's hot today.
Yes, it is.
Thunderstorms on the radar.
But you know, it's hotter in Maine.
Really?
Yep. Had a big storm or some big heat wave went through today.
That's insane.
I saw it on the way over here.
That's absolutely
100
insane.
degrees in Portland. Of course, half those people don't even have air conditioning.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what to do without central AC. Let me tell you right now.
Yeah.
I would not know what to do. It is 89 degrees outside, and it's about to storm.
Yes.
It's absolutely
rain
horrible.
is coming. As always.
Yeah. Well, aside
weather.
from the weather, we have a PPF class coming up tomorrow.
Yes, we do. And we are here at the new Geoshield Academy. We have a number of students coming in tomorrow for a 2-day class. The way we do the classes, the first day is we do an hour of educational stuff, working with the handbook I have right here. And it covers just about what we're going to kind of cover a little bit today, but in much more depth. It's an open class. Questions are always welcome. As I'm talking and people want to, it's hands-on.
Yeah, it's everybody, a back and forth.
Very, yes. That's,
yeah.
That's the words I'm looking for. And then the first day we pre-cut patterns. So you get to see the different ways of installing the product. So we pre-cut the cars that we have for the class today. And then tomorrow we apply all the patterns. And we do it multiple times. So everybody, after we have what I call the hour of administration hour, which you got to have, then we get in, everybody gets their hands wet. And we do patterns on the hood, we do the bumpers, we do fenders, we do mirrors, and we do it over and over and over. And everybody switches sides. So sometimes doing the driver's mirror is harder than doing the passenger mirror.
Really?
Depends on if you're left-handed or right-handed.
Oh, well, very true.
Right?
Very, very true.
And then the hood brings its own challenges. And then, of course, we end the day with the bumper, which I feel is sometimes the hardest thing to do on a vehicle, especially for new students. And then the following day, we do a review of we have another administration hour with a small quiz that's closed book, so that get the thought process going.
Yeah.
And then, let me reiterate. After the first day, I leave the film on the car, and any imperfections in the material, I circle with a Sharpie. And I do that because it's easier for me to say, it's going to go away. The sun will go away.
Okay.
And people get to be overly picky because they don't understand the characteristics of the product and how it dries.
100%. Yeah.
So you come in the next day, right? And a lot of times I'll take the car back to the hotel, it sits out, it's curing.
Yeah.
Right? So the next day I bring it back. And then after the administration hour, we go down and then we look at the car and we discuss the areas that are circled. And so the students can understand if it went away, and B, if it didn't go away, why?
Okay.
And if it did go away, then they get a better feeling for the way that the product releases moisture.
Yeah.
I had a student a couple of weeks ago that he started doing it and he couldn't really get it. And he said after the class, he said, my biggest problem was that I was too picky.
Oof.
I was pulling film off that once he went through the class and realized that, yes, that'll dry.
Yeah.
That will evaporate. PPF is porous, just like window film. I mean, the water can't go through the paint.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's got to come up through the multiple layers. But the fact that it's much thicker than a 1.5 mm auto film.
It just takes a lot longer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just got to give it time. And if it's a big glob of water, that's when I teach how you use the syringe to remove the fluid. And so you can get the dry time faster.
Yeah.
And once he learned that, he goes, that right there was a game changer. So it's little things. Sometimes it's little things like that. And, this class, even though we call it 101 or I hate using the term beginner's class.
Yeah.
But for lack of a better term, that's what it is. But I show all of the higher techniques in throughout the class because they need to know that. They need to know that I can get rid of that with a syringe.
Yeah.
Or if I got an air bubble in there, I can add solution back to it and then thus get rid of it.
Okay.
Okay. Or I use the plastic spoon trick.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Right. And I'm going to talk about that as we go down through the list here.
So the first day, basically administrative, learning, pre-cut stuff, everything like that. What about day 2?
Day 2 is we pull all the film off because you got to learn how to remove it.
Yeah.
That's the intricate part. And then we do everything bulk. And bulk is we take it off the roll, we measure it, we cut it, we install it, and we cut it on the car. Teach them how to roll the edges on all of the hoods, things like that. Mirrors are all hand cut on the mirror. Okay, and we talk about depth and what you should listen for the squeak. When you hear the squeak, you know your depth is right.
Yeah.
And you can hear it. You can hear it across the room if you got it dialed in. And you know, obviously I use rental cars, so there is going to be some cuts because it's students, and that's to be expected. But they understand, you know, they get a better feel for it. I found that day 2, everybody gets is nervous about day 2 because I'm cutting on the paint.
Yeah, I mean, you're cutting on the paint. Even if it's a rental car, you're still, in the back of your head, you're like, I don't want to be that person that cuts this paint.
Well,
you know?
It happens. I used to do the balloon trick, and I know some people who might be listening have gone through wrap classes where you wrap a balloon with the material and then you cut the material and not pop the balloon. I've actually switched that up a little bit, and now I just take it and I cut it, leaving the backing sheet on.
Okay.
So if you can do an S cut and separate the material and there's no score on the paper, then you didn't cut the paint.
Yeah.
Because the balloon's a little bit too aggressive. It's great to film people when they do it because when it pops, but it's more fun. But I don't think it's as practical as just cutting it flat.
Do you remember the game Operation?
Yeah.
So there's a guy, I think his name's Justin Cook. He's got the Tinstitute or something. Mike Noring actually posted a video. He's got this really cool, it looks like a scale almost, but it's electrically charged. So you hook it up to your red dot, and then you put the piece of film, and if you cut too deep,
it goes off.
So it's like playing Operation, you know?
It gives an electrical shock.
Oh, that would be cool. We'd have all of them up in here if they did that. Yeah.
Well, that's something to think about. I've never seen that, but that's a good idea.
It just came across my Facebook yesterday.
I'll be darned. Yeah, Mike's a creative fella.
He very much is.
Yes.
I love that man.
Yeah,
he's a trip.
He comes up with some good stuff.
So first day, administrative stuff. Second day, we're bulking. We're trying not to cut paint. We're learning knife techniques and everything. It seems like for only 2 days, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck.
Well, it's like I say in the beginning of the class, taking a class, and whether it's mine or anybody else's, it's like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
There's a ton of information you're going to get. It's a serious upload of information. You're only going to be able to grasp so much.
Yeah.
Okay, and the rest is go back and don't go back into your regular schedule because you'll forget what you've learned. You got to practice. And everybody goes home with a roll of film, right? That's part of the requirements of the class. So you have a little skin in the game to practice, and you don't go start on a black car and the hardest your neighbor's Corvette or anything like that. You start on something that you can just work on. I mean, sit there and do the mirror 10 times. Do the get to the hardest parts that you felt were hard or you felt were challenged in the class and work on that. And if I'm talking to anybody that's a window tinter, that's the majority of the people that I teach in my class.
Yeah.
I always reiterate back and I say, look, how many rolls of film did you go through before you learned how to tint a car?
Yeah.
I mean, you wasted product, but you had to. That's the cost of learning a new trade.
Exactly.
Like you come out of this class, you're going to be dangerous. Okay? I guarantee you will know more than what you came in with. It'll be above your expectation, and you will be able to apply PPF.
Yep.
Now, will you be able to apply it and get paid for it? Some may, some don't. Everybody learns at a different rate.
Yeah.
Okay? But the key is practice. Practice, practice, practice. Practice on your car, your wife's car, your mom's car, whatever. That's the key.
Yeah.
And then you go hang your slate out there and add it to your business, which is what they're here for to begin with.
Exactly. I mean, that's the whole point, is train these guys to be the best that they can.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop. It's just like, what me and Brent do for the automotive class. Like, even if you come to class and you leave class, it doesn't stop there. They still have us to be able to reach out to and say, hey, look, can I FaceTime you? I'm having a problem here. We encourage that. Like,
yes, I also do. I give everybody my contact information if they want to reach out directly to me. And by the way, I hear from my students all year long. Some of them show me stuff that they've done, which is really impressive. It's like, wow, you did that?
Yeah.
And, some of them are, I'm having a problem with this. What do I do? And if I can get pictures and video or something, I can talk you through it for the most part. A key point of PPF application is the mounting solution.
Yeah.
And everybody asks me, well, what's the mixture? And you can't answer that question.
No.
Okay, all I can say is, we recommend in the class that you use Johnson & Johnson's baby shampoo, the real stuff, not the fragrance stuff or the lighter, the old original orange, or not orange, deep yellow label.
Yeah, the gold stuff. Or
the
whatever.
gold, the golden label. And there's no surfactants in it. You can pour it in your eye, so there's nothing in there that's going to attack the adhesive. But I will tell you that if you use too much soap, your film won't stick.
Yeah.
Because you end up saturating that adhesive with it, and it becomes too slippery. If you don't use enough, obviously it's going to stick too quick.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I start the day with a little smidge, and you can always add, and you can always redo your bottle. But as the day goes on, now here in the academy, it's pretty climate controlled.
Yeah.
So it's fairly consistent here, but some of the other places that I do classes in, not so much. And as the day progresses, and for instance in the summer, as it gets more humid, your mixture changes.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, you're laying a piece of material down, and you're like, wait a minute, it's not behaving like it did before.
Yeah. And
you just got to make an alteration to it. So there is no easy answer for that. And I know everybody searches for that. For that answer, and every manufacturer says, okay, it's X amount of drops to X amount of ounces. Okay, because you have to have some sort of base.
Yeah,
there's got to be a baseline somewhere. I found that it's difficult also with people who have kegs.
Yeah, that's
a difficult mixture, and you cannot. Maybe I shouldn't be so firm with it, but you should not use a tint mixture to apply PPF.
Yeah, no.
Typically, window film needs a little more soap. And then it depends on what manufacturer of the window film. Some of them need a lot more soap than others. It's just the type of adhesive and the coat weights and things like that. So you got to be careful with that. Because the number one call I get from whether it's distributors, salespeople, or it's the students, is it's lifting, which means film's popping up on stress areas, and won't stick.
Yeah.
It won't stick. It won't stick. You got too much soap. Then you got to take, by the way, alcohol's a no-no, ever, on these types of new adhesives. It reacts negatively to it. It'll turn it blue and actually won't stick.
Holy shit.
Just
it'll
gums
eat it all up. Yeah.
It gums it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what we do in the class is we use a 2-bottle system. One of them is going to be just fresh water. So we just take the fresh water and rinse the soap residue out of that adhesive, and then you can get it to stick.
Yeah.
If you touch it too much, this is a problem.
Wax and grease on your fingers.
Yep, that's what happens. It gets into the adhesive. I see that mostly on the first day when we're doing patterns.
Okay.
Because a lot of kits, there's nothing to grab.
Yeah, there's no extra half inch or anything.
Now you got to do what they call a hand stretch.
Yeah.
But you got to be careful with that because your hand can actually transfer heat and tack the adhesive. Okay. And that's called a hand set. All right, we're back now. And I'm using these terminologies now, so we're going to jump around to that. So every industry, and window tinters out there, detailers out there, wrappers out there that it might be listening, and PPF guys, has its own language.
Yeah.
I'll go through a couple. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I just mentioned a hand set. And that's where if you want the edge to tack, you can use your thumb or you can use the palm of your hand and just rest it on there, and the heat transfer from your body will tack that adhesive.
Okay.
Okay, so it's kind of like a little extra, like if you're doing a mirror and you're pulling and stick your thumbs down and just hold it a minute.
And then those areas are set.
Correct. It'll tack enough so you can get the rest of the water and the solution out of it. Ghosting is another one that comes up a lot. What ghosting is everybody talks about how PPF is stain resistant. Okay, it is to a point. Okay, because remember the material is porous.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that, where the water's got to go somewhere. Solution's got to come out. Okay, so what ends up happening? Say a bird craps on the hood of your car. Right, it's been eating blueberries, and you got a white car.
Yeah.
All right. You can wipe the initial mess off, but you're going to see an image still in the material. That's what's known as ghosting.
Okay.
Okay. The sun will cook that out in time, not too long, but it's best to get on it and get it taken care of.
Yeah.
So when you say stain resistant, like I said, it's to a point. Okay, a lot of times on material I have in my house, my vehicles, I can just go out and wipe it off.
Yeah.
And it's not very visual at all. But if you let it sit there and get baked into Florida sun or Louisiana sun, it's going to be there a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one to remember. Another one is snail trails. Now, what that means is, and window tinters can relate to this, when you do a back window with window film, and you got the defroster lines, sometimes you're going to end up capturing, there's going to be bubbles in there that your squeegee kind of hydroplaned over.
Yeah.
Okay. And but with that, you can just go right back and push them right out.
Yeah.
Or if you have a bubble in a side window, you can just push it right out. Okay, with PPF, it reacts so fast to the squeegee, it's tacking. So you can't, in some cases, you can't just take that bubble and push it out.
Then you'll push the adhesive.
If you hit, what I do is I tell people, just take it to where you get resistance and stop.
Yeah.
Because if you push it through that area, you're going to end up creating a snail trail.
Okay.
Does it make sense? So you're literally pushing the adhesive out of the way.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That most of the time won't go away if it's really bad. So it depends on where it happens, and so it's best just to let it dry. So that's where that's where the patience of let the bubble dry. Don't try to push it through.
So if you let it dry, but you still have a trail of adhesive, then you just take that piece off.
Right.
Okay.
And it depends on how big it is and where it is. Okay. But that's one that comes up a lot. The other one is a reposition line or a work line, where if you have to, after the film's been sitting a while, you got to pull it back up. Say it's got a hair under it or something, and you remove that and then you lay it back down. There's a method of how you can wet it under there and really get the solution up under the product and put a little stretch on it and lay it down. That helps flatten that adhesive line.
Are you talking about where, so you're doing a hood, okay? And you're squeegeeing down, but you see a hair. When you pull up and get to that line, you're talking about that line that you've created now?
Right.
Okay.
Where you've lifted and you got film that's already starting to tack on the paint.
Yeah.
And then you've lifted it and you got whatever you needed to lift it for, you got that out of there. And then you get up under there and you soak that leading edge.
Yeah.
Okay? And then you put tension on it and pull and then squeegee, and you can diminish that line.
Okay.
With this film. And there's some other films that I work with that you can do that trick with. I've worked with some other films that you can't really do anything with.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
it just
just
depends.
there. Yeah.
It depends on the adhesive. Another one that you run into a lot, I see, is chicken skin. Everybody knows what a plucked chicken looks like. All right, that's the image that the adhesive will do. That's caused from a couple things. That area wasn't saturated enough when it was applied, and it tacked. And then when you squeegeed over it, you left that image of the adhesive dry pocket. It's not white, but it's just didn't have enough solution mixed in with the adhesive.
Yeah.
Another one is if you all the time my beginner guys, they'll put their hand on the hood and they'll doing this. Okay, and those 5 fingers, again, we're back to that heat transfer.
Yeah.
Those 5 fingers are going to leave an image, and that's chicken skin.
turn around and see a handprint, and you're like,
yeah,
we gotta
And
go.
you say,
we gotta
whoopsie,
go somewhere.
but that's human nature.
Yeah.
They're working on a bigger piece. They do this.
Yeah.
Okay. We talk about how to diminish that, and sometimes you can remove it with the clear spoon trick.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to divulge that trick because you got to come to the class and find that out.
Teasers for you. Teasers.
That's right.
Gotta come to class.
And the key is, I'll touch base on one more thing I call it floating the film, and this helps diminish chicken skin.
Okay.
Is when you get it good and wet,
Yeah.
make sure everything good, put it on the pattern and move it around. And what that does is that gets everything mixed together, then line it up and then tack it. Then
Okay.
set it. And you do that, if you do that consistently, you won't have chicken skin issues.
Yeah.
Because that's critical on a black car, on a dark red car, any dark colored car, you can see it.
Yeah. It just
And
makes it pop.
some of it will dry out a little bit and level out. Depends on the product that you use. Again, and the clear spoon is a great trick to go after it when it's wet. You can pretty much get rid of most of it. So
Tips
it
and
works.
Tricks by Bill Stewart. But you gotta come to class.
Throw a few of them out there.
You gotta come to class. Well, before, Mr. Bill, you've been doing this for a long time, and you seem to have a lot of knowledge in the PPF world. Could you give the listeners or viewers a little backstory on even just the history of PPF? Who started this? Where did it come from?
PPF was started back in the 60s. I think, hold on, let me check my notes. I don't want to speak. Yeah, in the mid-50s.
Mid-50s.
Mid-50s. Military had a problem with having damage to the leading edge of rotor blades for helicopters. And I believe it was started in the Korean War back in the 50s. Yeah. And apparently the edge of those things, if they get dinked up, they can affect how it flies and potentially crash the
Holy
airplane.
shit.
So they came up with somebody has a 3 in their name.
Yeah.
Invented this, thought, hey, let's put adhesive on urethane and put it on there. Well, nobody cared back then if it turned yellow and cracked and did all that. It was doing what it was designed to do.
It was serving the purpose. Yeah.
Right. And then a company named Hartz up in Massachusetts invented, and this is in the early 60s, they're an auto upholstery company, and they invented the bra, the black bra that everybody's clipped on their car, remember? And that was big hit.
My grandmother had one of those.
I still see him in Florida.
Yeah. I still see him every
Every
now and then.
You'll see one. And a lot of times if you see them now, if it's not a snowbird in Florida that's coming down, making that trip, and then they take it off just to protect their cars. Usually somebody's either wrecked their car or the front end's already messed up, so they're just covering it up.
Yeah, they just needed something on there.
I had one. They were cool back in the day, and but that was really the first concept of, hey, we can take something and protect the front end of the vehicle.
Yeah.
And then the racing circuit got a hold of it, and mostly it was the Porsche, that type of road course type vehicles that started putting it on. And again, the technology was never designed back then to non-yellow, no crack, 10-year warranties, and
it had a purpose,
ease of application. Back then you used alcohol to put it on, and some films, by the way, you can still use alcohol, but the application was very cumbersome. It wasn't user friendly like it is now.
Yeah.
Okay. They didn't have hydrophobic coatings on it. It was just basically raw urethane put on with some sort of a top coat that they put to hold it all together, and then that went through the 80s and the 90s. But nowadays, it got into once got into that racing circuit, the higher end cars that people owned decided, hey, wait a minute, why don't I put on my daily driver and protect my paint?
Yeah.
And that's what drove the market to continue to make it better and better and better. And the adhesives have gotten better. The top coats, the hydrophobic coatings have gotten better. The grade of urethane has gotten better.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I first started messing around with this stuff back in 2005, it was, you'd be lucky to be able to find a clear urethane and then put a UV inhibitor in there that wasn't yellow.
Yeah.
Because you're injecting UV inhibitors into the material to protect the urethane itself from the sun. but it was yellow. So it was almost like you were being counterproductive to what you're doing.
Exactly.
You know? So, but nowadays, all the films, majority of the films, can't say all of them, majority of the films, the good quality products are clear.
Yeah. Very
clear. They got good stretch. Their top coats have a good self-healing capability to them. Because remember, urethane itself, raw urethane, is self-heals. That's why when you plot with it, we always say go weed it.
Yeah.
Don't let it sit there because it'll mold back together.
Yeah.
Okay, if you cut with a cap sheet, which you can cut with a cap sheet, by the way, makes it much easier to weed. Trust me. The cap sheet won't self-heal, but the urethane underneath it will.
It will.
Okay, so as a manufacturer, they had to find that magic potion of how you can put a protective hydrophobic coating on it, but still have self-healing capabilities.
Yeah.
Now, self-healing, again, is to a point. Okay, you run into a parking pole, it's not going to self-heal.
It ain't going to go back.
But it probably didn't mess up your paint.
Yeah.
Okay, it depends on how hard you hit it. But if you bump it with a shopping cart, or somebody leans against it, or wear and tear kind of
the best example for me, my fiance, where we live, we have a tree that has an overhanging limb, and I just recently cut it, but the top of her roof.
Oh, sure.
Sometimes it'll on that roof, boom, hit it with a heat gun or something, or some hot water. Even
put it in the sun.
Yeah. Let it in the sun, gone.
Yep.
But anything beyond something like that, then it's going to be pretty tough.
Yeah. So I mean, you got to remember, the product, it's paint protection, not paint perfection.
Yeah.
Right. The customer, and it's all how you sell it. When you go in there, you don't oversell the product. It's designed to protect the paint up to a degree, much better than what you got without it. And at the end of the day, you go to sell the car, you can pull it off.
Yep.
And there's your OEM paint in perfect condition.
And then now, so we stored it in the 50s.
Yep.
Then we went to racing clubs and everything like that. And then people started commercializing it, wanting it on their vehicles. And now we're seeing in the 2020s the evolution of colored PPFs.
Yes, that's up and coming. If you go to SEMA, that was a big hit last couple of years.
It was a giant thing.
Right, and there's quite a few manufacturers that are offering that, and I get the angle. I heard something the other day, because I was talking with someone, and I said, well, if you have a white car and you want to make it a black car, what do you do with the door jambs?
Yeah, you'd have to.
Let me redo that. If you got a white car and you want to make it a blue car, what do you do with the door jambs?
You'd either have to wrap it blue, or
That's what people say. They use wrap.
Yeah.
So you just use wrap, or some people just use black wrap.
Yeah.
So you open up the car, and your door jambs and getting in is all black.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the exterior color is. If you can do that, and you can do it with PPF, then you can do a color change.
Yeah.
But that's always been the question: is how do you handle that? Because with wrap, you take the car apart and you do the whole thing. It's a total color change.
Yeah.
So it is up and coming. I think that it's a bit cost prohibitive now. For now.
Yeah.
But as that technology, and they learn to extrude the color in with it when they manufacture it, I can see that it's going to have its place in the market.
Oh, 100%.
And we'll find out when we go to SEMA this year. You'll see the trend.
Yeah, we'll see the changes, the different trends, and we'll see what's hot.
Yeah. And I know that there's been some couple of companies that have released a dry apply PPF.
Yeah.
And that, I'm not gonna dig into that because I don't want to give my opinion on that. I've messed with it. I've worked with it. I think it's a little. It just needs more work.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way. It's an interesting idea because wrap is dry apply.
Yeah.
But there's a big difference.
Oh, 100%.
So, but it came out last year at SEMA. It was debuted.
Yeah.
Some major companies are telling me that, we're not going to mess with it because they're just waiting. We're watching. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's what's going to happen in the industry. there's going to be the waiters and watchers and seeing what happens and experiments. And then there's going to be the ones that are like, we got to do it. We got to do it.
Yeah. And I think, there's always some industry leaders.
Yeah.
And then you have to be. It's a great idea. Like I said, they manufacture, one of these industry leaders that released it, they have a whole line of vinyl wrap material, and they've been in the adhesive game for, decades.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they have the technology, but it's like everything else, like when window tint first came out, like what it is today versus what it was.
Exactly.
But at one point, you have to start somewhere.
Exactly.
Right?
Somebody has to start it.
Right.
If not, it ain't going to start.
Throw it out there, and the dealers will help with that. The guys that are in there living it every day, and they're installing it every day, they give feedback.
That's the thing too, is without good feedback, whether it's positive or negative
Right.
feedback helps a lot too.
Sure.
That's whenever you start learning.
Right.
If everybody is saying this is the best thing since sliced bread, then you're just going to think that you have something.
It's very rare in this industry that you make something and you hit the home run the first time.
Oh, exactly.
You got to go back to the well a couple of times and tweak and change this, change that, and they'll get it. They'll get it.
Yeah, they will.
And you'll see where it ends up.
So with the changes, everything, how PPF is nowadays, when you're putting on a class, what are the most common questions that these students have?
Yeah. Well, I mentioned one of them, and that's always how much soap do you put in it?
Yeah.
And especially if you're in the window tint side of the business, they really can't. It's very difficult for them to wrap their mind around how little soap I use.
Yeah.
Right? They're so used to using so much. The other one is, can I install it on freshly painted cars? Or some of my clients are body shops.
Ah.
I get that a lot.
Yeah.
And the answer is, the short answer is, yeah, you can, but you should wait 90 days because paint outgasses.
Yeah, you have to let it.
You got to let the paint do its thing,
Yeah.
and then you can put the PPF on. But a lot of these guys are in a position where they do body shop work, and the painter finished it, and they got to deliver the car Friday, and it's Wednesday, and it needs PPF put on it.
Yeah.
So the question is, yes, you can do it. It's not advisable, and it's not warranted, and you never take it out and set it in the sun if you do that. Now, think about that for a second. You got moisture under the material.
Yeah.
You got fresh paint. You introduce heat. What does that create? Creates steam.
Yep.
You'll steam the paint off.
Yeah, then you'll come back outside and be
I'm not
like,
gonna say it every single time,
oh.
but yes.
Yeah.
And of course, the body shop guys are gonna be, that's fine. It's gas. Do it because they're on a timeline. You got to get it out. They got to get paid, and I get it. So it is obviously, when I use the term non-warranted, I don't think any manufacturer warranties paint damage except one, and you have to pay extra for that.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, but it's just safe if you can avoid doing that application. Avoid it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I've had classes where I use rental cars and I've pulled paint because the rental car was painted. Somebody wrecked it, painted it. I don't know the history of the car. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I didn't know.
exactly.
So, but that's rare, and it does happen. But I've noticed when you use the steamer a lot, you loosen paint.
Yeah.
Like if you're working on a bumper, and when I'm in a class, I'm doing it over and over and over and over. If you're doing it in a shop, you're doing it once.
Yep.
So there is a difference that you're introducing that type of heat to the paint and the adhesive.
But I've noticed nowadays too, like my truck isn't very new. It's a 2016, but paint nowadays is just atrocious.
Yeah.
It's like it's a single stage paint job on that truck. The door handles are all flaked off from white paint.
Wow.
Like there's no white paint left on them.
Yeah.
It absolutely terrifies me to do anything to that vehicle because I'm scared to rip all the paint off.
Right. Yeah, like if you ever take those graphics off.
Exactly. That's why they haven't came off yet. Everybody asks when I'm going to rewrap it, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm scared.
Yeah, I drive a Tacoma 2020 white one, and I keep getting these recalls for paint coming off. And apparently, I Googled it, and apparently it's a big problem.
Yeah.
Now, thank goodness, it hasn't happened to mine yet. But I don't know whether it's matter of time, or I just don't drive it enough, or just whatever. I don't know. I don't know what causes it, and I don't think Toyota does. But I got the letter just 2 weeks ago.
It's probably just a brand of
Had a
paint.
bunch of pictures and where
crazy.
it goes, but it's that year. It's that, and it's apparently it's white paint for Toyota.
That's all it is on my truck too. It's all the white Chevys.
Yeah.
All the white ones.
And it's the damn Tacoma. That's the one.
Dang.
So I was like, I don't know. So you never know. You don't know what your, what they call your palette is that you're working on. You never know.
So the biggest thing is just be careful, basically.
Be careful. Try to find out. We do inspection in the class. I'll touch base on this too. This is pretty good. We do two things that a lot of times it surprises me. One of them is, I call it a terms and conditions sheet. I'm glad we're talking about this. And this is something that the company needs to have, that the customer is going to sign off on.
Yeah.
Okay. You got to go out there and look at the condition of the vehicle. They come in and they say, look, I want a partial. I want ABC package. I want A. Okay, Mr. Smith, we're going to walk out. Now we're going to look. And so I actually have a form here that I took from rental car back in the old days when they would walk out, and this is a car wash one, but they would walk out and inspect your car.
Yeah, an inspection sheet.
And say, all right, well, you've been hit here. You already have chips here, not enough to go get paint corrected.
Yeah.
Okay. We can fix those. That's another trick I teach in the class. But you need to communicate that with them. And then it goes all the way down to, it explains about OEM paint. Yeah. Exactly what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Just because it came from the factory doesn't mean it's perfect.
Yeah.
Right? And
Not
then paint
at all.
chips are already there. And then it talks about a kit installation. If you do a pattern instead of bulk, you're going to get edge. You're not going to be able to get it all the way to the edge. Depends on the software you're using.
Yeah.
Okay, so it talks about that. It talks about drying time. It talks about cleaning. It talks about if you're in the position where you have to remove a badge or a decal. It'll talk about how to do that and what to look for. And then, again, it goes back to imperfections. And then this other last one on here I thought was interesting, because it actually happened to me once, is photo release permission. Everybody likes to take pictures. You get a cool car come in, you want to work on it, you want to take a picture of it, you want to put it in your shop, you want to put it online, you want to put it wherever.
Yeah.
You should ask the owners if they're okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was working on a Ferrari one time with a guy in Arizona, and never seen the car. It was a La Ferrari. I mean, you don't see those ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I whipped my phone out and take a picture, man. I thought they were going to shoot me. No, you can't do that. Because it gives, I guess you can dig into the photograph, and I'm not an expert on this, and get location.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially nowadays.
Right.
Super easy to do that.
Right. And so then come back and steal a car.
Yeah.
So that's what they were concerned about. So it's good to think about this, those of you that are watching, because you're messing with paint. It's one thing to, all right, you scratch a window with your Olfa knife. There's a way to fix that too, by the way. Or you pull a piece of defroster. Or you burn a door panel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But now you're messing with paint.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that whatever damage was there, because you know what the old saying, you touched it last.
You own it.
You own it.
Yep.
That's the part of the problem. Now, a lot of shops got cameras and things like that, but still, it's just good to protect yourself. And I think it makes the customer feel that you're more of a professional shop.
Yeah.
That you're in there and you're taking the time to do that, and you care for the vehicle.
Yeah, that's a thing that you see in both sides of the industry. Actually, every part of the industry, whether you're a detailer, PPF installer, automotive window tint installer, flat glass guy, or whatever, you'll see it a lot. You'll have a lot of these guys going to forums and they're screenshotting their conversation to the customer, and the customer will put a screenshot of their dashboard or something, and they're like, man, it wasn't doing this before you tinted it or whatever. And the guy's like, what do I do? And it's like, well, did you take pictures beforehand?
Nope.
No, he's my best friend. I didn't think it would come to this. That's where you messed up. You know what I'm saying? So it's always better to just be precautious than...
Especially all the people doing windshields. I see so many times on the forums about, the guy brought it in and now the dash is just blinking.
Yeah.
You weren't doing it before. The nav doesn't work anymore, or the check engine light, or whatever is happening. It's, I tinted it. I didn't do this, and I made sure it was dry. But you touched it last.
Exactly.
And then obviously know where all those computer boards are. I think Audi's got them in the trunk. That if you're doing the quarter window.
Yeah, that and Jeep Grand Cherokees too. I think the newer Jeeps, they got the weird BCM module in the front too. So
it's just, you got to know your stuff.
Exactly. You have to do your research. You have to ask. And don't be scared to ask either. Then forums can be scary sometimes too. But if you've got a brand new car you've never worked on,
ask.
Take a picture and say, what do I need to look out for?
It depends on the forum you're in too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a member of all of them, so I see some of the responses are a little aggressive. They should, nobody was born knowing how to do this.
Exactly.
Everybody started at the beginning. No, it's the way it works.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why we try to help.
That's a whole nother podcast, man.
Go down
the road on that one.
We could just go on a whole debauchery debate about that one.
Yes.
But we spoke about all the other products and everything, and how we help our dealers even after leaving the class and stuff. Can we give the viewers a little background on our products? We have 2 great lines.
You're right. You do.
At amazingly affordable prices compared to a lot of other, films in the industry.
Hold on, let me pull this up. Let me get some construction stuff right here. Okay. Yeah. Geoshield offers 2 lines of PPF. One of them is standard. That's what it's called, standard, which is what I use in the class. And it's a 1.5 mil cap sheet, 0.6 mil top coat, okay, and a 6 mil urethane.
Yep.
Okay, and a 1.2 mil mounting adhesive. So you think about that, you window tinters, you're putting on a 1.5 total product.
Yeah.
And this is 1.2 mil just the adhesive. Okay, and then you got a 3 mil liner, which you got to have a 3 mil liner.
That's a thick boy.
Yes. Yeah. So your total film when you pull it out of the box is a little over 12 mil, which is pretty thick.
Yeah.
Okay, but once you toss everything, you're literally putting on a little over 9. So in essence, I don't. Do you guys sell as a 6 mil, or do you sell as a
7 or 7.5?
Right. You can sell it as a 9.
Yeah.
Because that's the amount of coating that you're putting on there. And then the difference is with the ceramic shield PPF, it has the same cap sheet. It's got a 1 mil top coat, and there's where there's a ceramic additives in there. So the gloss is higher, the hydrophobicness, that word, is better.
Yeah.
Okay, so beads water, things like that better. Everything else is the same on the construction.
Yeah.
So that's actually a 12.7, almost a 13 mil total, and almost a 10 mil installed due to that extra coat weight on there. So most companies don't offer, a choice. Usually it's the one and done. This is our PPF offering. This is what we have. So it's good that you have that option.
Yeah, and one's a 5-year, one's a 10-year, and one's just super affordable. That's what you're going to leave the class with. You're going to get a roll of that with the option to upgrade to ceramic shield.
Sure.
But the biggest difference is in the construction of it. It doesn't make one worse than the other one.
No, well, I've worked with both of them, and the adhesive's the same.
Yeah.
And that's if you're the applicator, that's the trick. And the stretch is the same. You can't really tell that there's that extra ceramic layer on there.
Yeah.
Other than when you wipe the car down and look at it outside and things like that, it's a little bit upgraded product. They're nice films.
They're both very good, and I've seen you install both of them, and they both have very good qualities on them.
Yep.
And speaking about the installs, whenever you do come to class, you're going to leave with not only a roll of the standard with the option to upgrade, but you'll get all of the tools that they have been seeing here.
Yeah. And the nice thing about PPF, I'm going to show my age in the business.
Here, folks. He's showing his
because
age.
I could tint a car with a knife, roll of paper towels, and a squeegee, and a heat gun.
I know. I think
before we even had a heat gun.
I think the first time you came in here and you broke out the plastic spoon and everything, I was like, "What's he doing?"
Yeah. So here you get. Obviously, we'll give you a pouch. You get it off a knife. Okay. There's a clay bar in here. Okay. I actually use a synthetic clay bar in the class. Okay. A wrap glove. Notice the color. And people say, what do you need a wrap glove for? Well, I like it when I'm going to go after the film is starting to cure.
Yeah.
Where I got areas where the films lift and you can see it better. I put the glove on. I usually stick one finger in it and then just rub it around those edges.
Yeah.
Because if you've ever been cut by it, it hurts.
Been cut by film plenty of times.
Ever been cut by security film?
Not security film.
That's what it feels like. And then we'll get you 2 applicating squeegees, which is really all you need. And spray bottle and microfiber cloths.
Yeah.
And you can PPF a car.
PPF simple. I mean, it's the same as auto tint. You have these guys that have shelves full of tools.
Yes. I wasn't going to go down that rabbit hole.
We'll save that one for the debauchery podcast that we get into.
Yeah, we'll get into one of those ones.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, I get it. Tools, it's just, I don't know. How many squeegees do you need?
Well, you never know until you know. But with
now,
us,
there's some good ones. Back in the old days, for instance, we used to take a 5-weight tool.
Yeah.
Right? And we would make our own slammers. We'd cut them.
Yeah, just cut them up.
We cut them up.
Tools.
We survived on the white, what was it, 8-inch long thing with the black rubber seal strip on it.
Oof.
You sell them.
Yeah.
You probably don't sell them because nobody knows what they are. But we used to take those and cut them in a wedge.
Yeah.
And that same tool you were using earlier?
Yep.
Made one of those.
Okay.
So I can see the concept is there.
Yeah.
You know. But it's just interesting to me, all the new and tools, and some of them are really great. You know, some of them are just really awesome.
Yeah.
Some of them it's overkill, I think. That's just my opinion. I'm not.
Some of them are just like
going down that road.
You don't need that. But for us in the class, you'll get the 2 squeegees.
Yep.
Glove.
You'll get what you need to go home and PPF the vehicle.
Exactly.
Yep.
And if you want to add more to your arsenal, by all means, get whatever you want.
Right. Because they sell all the tools.
We do. We sell 199 tools, probably more than 200 at this point now.
Yeah. So you can get. It's a one-stop shop.
It is. It's a one-stop shop.
You
know, I have people that message me all the time because I am one of the sales reps, and they'll ask, now I give my opinion on what I use. Obviously, whenever I do auto film installation installs, I just use a flat out, a pink tri-edge, and then a shank, and then a little chiseler whenever I have to have touch-ups.
I use an Olfa knife, man, not a shank.
Oh, you don't like the shanks?
I don't know what a shank is.
The shank's just to pull my gasket.
It's like something they used in prison.
Oh yeah, I make my own too sometimes.
That's what I was thinking.
Shank the gasket. But yeah, that's all I use. But I'll tell them over the phone or anything, whatever you want to use, whatever makes you feel comfortable, order whatever you need.
That's right.
And that's the way that I go.
You got them all in stock.
Yep. Got every single thing that they need.
Yep.
So we talked about terms and conditions, the inspection forms.
We're good.
Frequently asked questions. Is there anything you would like to add to the...
Come to the class.
You guys need to come to the class because let me tell you, I know it's summertime.
And you're busy.
And y'all are busy.
Hopefully.
But this man right here...
Come to the class.
...has so much knowledge that your head will spin. And you're going to be wanting to do everything in the world when it comes to PPF, auto tint, and then hopefully soon flat glass.
Yep.
That's what we're expecting to add over here at the Geoshield Academy.
Yep, absolutely.
But if that's it from you, Mr. Bill,
that's all I got.
We'll go ahead and close this one out. I appreciate everybody for hanging out, whether you're listening on one of the podcast forums or you're viewing this on our YouTube channel. Like I said, if you haven't seen me and Bill's last podcast speaking about auto film and all of its layers and everything that it's constructed of, go back and watch that one. We'll have the description link down up in there. But as for this one, with PPF 101, that's a wrap. We'll see you guys on the next one.